car chat. Hey. I am driving home from Aldi thinking about my beautiful boys who were not with me because they're working with Daddy today. But I miss them when I go grocery shopping because they usually load up the conveyor belt thing and help me bag all the groceries, put everything in the car for me, take the grocery cart back, get the quarter, examine it for any mint errors to see if it's of any value, something they need to add to their coin collection, and then help me unload everything when we get home and help me put everything away. And this is not just an accident. I have taught them to work with me their entire life. As you guys know, I homeschool. My kids are literally my companions day in and day out. They have been my companion for the last 15 and a half years. And so it got me thinking of this older, wiser woman that I know. When I met her, her oldest was 12 and she had 2 more children after I met her. So she has 7, I believe, in total. And so all straight down the line, she had all boys. And so I knew I wanted boys, which that doesn't mean anything. I could have had girls, but I wanted boys so bad, and the Lord blessed me with 2 boys. And so I always listened to her and her philosophy with raising boys, and then of course even more so after my boys were born. But some of the things she said that really stuck with me through the years was to always make your children feel like they're a part of the family, not a burden to what you're trying to get done. Include them, make them feel valuable, make them feel like they're actually wanted, needed, and helpful, not in the way and annoying. And kids pick up on way more than you would like to believe, but they do. And if you're annoyed at them or if they feel burdensome to you, they know it. So I remember hanging on to that and thinking there's something rich there that I want to make sure to communicate to my boys or my children, that they're a part of the family, they're valuable, and they are wanted and needed, and they actually contribute and make a difference. It's not just, we're letting you do this because you're little, but you actually make a difference to the end result because of your value and your help. So that's always been something that I've tried to demonstrate and communicate to them throughout their entire life. She also said to teach your kids to work with you, even if it takes 5 times as long as it would if you just did it by yourself. Teach them to work with you so that later in life you feel like the queen that you are because they will take over as they're more and more capable, and as they get older and older, they will take over and do things for you that you've taught them to do, and to do it well. And it frees you from so much that not only is hard to manage all alone, but also it gets harder to do because you're getting older. And I have noticed there are some things, very strenuous things, that I would need to do if my boys weren't here, that they do for me, and it is such a blessing. And I am extremely vocal about my gratefulness for them and to them, and my appreciation to them for all the things they do for the home, for the family, for me. They are just amazing. And I do think that, again, our kids pick up on way more than we realize. Hector and I are very hard workers. I think they've picked up on that even if we haven't verbalized it. So they're hard workers as a result. And Hector and I don't complain. We just don't. And I don't know why, but I've never really thought about verbalizing to my children, don't complain. But they got the picture through life, and they don't. They do not complain. They just do. Just like mom and dad. We don't sit around complaining about, oh, we gotta go do this, and oh, we gotta go do that. We just do. And so I think that's one example in our home that I didn't necessarily try to instill in my children. They just picked up on it. And I sure am glad. I know there's some things that even if you and your husband are both a certain way, then you have a child or two that are not that way. So it's not like a guaranteed thing, but you know, it's just the way it worked out for us. Obviously, there's plenty of children who are whiners or throw tantrums and complain, and their parents are super hardworking and don't complain at all. Who knows? You know, that happens too, of course. And you're like, where did you get this from? So I get it. There are things in my children that I'm thinking, where did you get this from? We don't think this way. We don't talk this way. We don't reason this way. Why would you reason this way? And it's just because, obviously, in the end, yes, nature versus nurture. I think there's something very mysterious and very true to some of the things that are suggested, that we're each born who we are. Like, God has made us who we are. He's given us strengths in our personalities and these things, but then there's also a very mysterious fact. Somehow it's also nurtured and shaped with our home life. And so let's just say that God has made me a very strong personality. Well, it could have been used for bad based on how I've been brought up. I could have been taught to use my strong personality in very proud, arrogant, rude, unkind ways instead of in loving, gracious, protector ways. How did that happen? That part is kind of out of my hands, right? You're not really to blame for the way you're brought up, but obviously there is a point where responsibility kicks in and you have the ability to think and reflect and see and discern and make choices and say, I've been taught to be a cynic my whole life by all the examples around me, but I don't like that, and I'm not going to be a cynic. I'm going to renew my thinking and think the best about people first, and not assume and not think that I know people's motives and their actual heart's intentions, and renew my mind to first think, take them at their word. And if I'm given reason to think otherwise, then don't be a fool and naive, but be discerning and wise. But we can do these things as we grow up, even if we're brought up in an environment where we're taught to be very cynical or a gossip or a really bad friend. Some things scar deeper than others, obviously, and there's a lot more work that needs to be done as we get older and realize the negative ways we've been shaped. But some positive ways that we've been shaped, hopefully, are also recognized, and we can be grateful for those things and teach them to our children too. So it really is very mysterious and interesting, but I'm just grateful. I do think, sometimes people, they write books and they write articles and they have conferences about parenting and all these things, and there's valuable things here and there you can grab onto. I just really, at this point in my parenting, I really think it boils down to one thing. If your children are persuaded by the things you're teaching them, you're going to have an easier time raising those children. If they are not convinced, if they are not persuaded by you, not just through example, but through your teaching, your wisdom, and adopt your way of thinking and trust it and like it and agree with it, you're going to have a harder time. It's just what I've kind of come to think. I praise the Lord that I was able to be with my children every single day of their life and read the Proverbs with them and flesh out scenarios with them on how these Proverbs can be applied and how I've seen them applied and also ignored in my own life or in people's I've known life, and give them example after example, and we come up with these scenarios and talk, and then we even take their life and apply the wisdom of the word. And I think that they've just seen enough evidence to be persuaded that there is a better way to live life, and it's the way that we're trying to teach them. And that does not mean it's in the bag, my kids are good and nothing bad's ever going to happen. I'm not a fool either. I'm not naive. I do not think there's a formula. They're going to make mistakes just like I did, just like Hector did, just like we all do. They're going to make stupid decisions. They're going to really upset me with some choices they make. But sometimes you learn from watching and listening. Sometimes you learn the harder way by making a dumb mistake without significant consequences. Sometimes you learn the really hard way by making a mistake and having awful consequences, and maybe even long-term inescapable consequences, which Lord protect my children from that kind of mistake. And then sometimes you just never learn because you are a fool. And so I've always just tried to teach the boys, being teachable is wise. Learning from your mistakes is wise. What's even wiser is heeding the warnings of your father and mother and just taking us at our word that this is not good. And that's what God did to Adam and Eve in the garden. And they made the biggest mistake that has affected all of humanity by doubting him and listening to some liar come in and make them question their loving father. And I've taught them always, if ever someone makes you wonder, maybe my mom and dad were wrong about that, they're the enemy. Like right away, they're the enemy. They are trying to make you go a different direction than what you've been taught. And that doesn't mean we're perfect and we've taught them perfectly, but I think the fundamentals we sure have. And they see me too as a very protective, strong mother. I think that that's given them a huge sense of security. They see my love for Hector and Hector's love for me and our unity and our we're not going nowhere kind of feeling. And I know that's given them a priceless sense of security. Our kids pick up on more than we realize. They know when mom and dad are good, and they know when mom and dad are not. And if there's coldness or unforgiveness or bitterness or resentment in the home, they know. If there's no laughter in the home, there's something lacking. There's something wrong. And these are all things that you can't fake. You want them to be genuine and real, but you also want them to be on your mind, because sometimes in the trials and pressures of life, the cares of the world, we can lose sight of just relaxing and having fun. And if you're not intentional at making sure that you're relaxing and having fun and laughing with your kids and enjoying your kids, you can be losing a beautiful relationship with them. And I do think that's something that I know I have tried so hard to have fun with my kids, not just do this, do that, da-da-da-da. I'm definitely that too. I am definitely a manager. I'm definitely a homeschool mother. We're getting our priorities accomplished first. But then there's fun and goofing off and laughter. If you put music on in the kitchen, mom is dancing like a fool, and they videotape me in secret sometimes. It's hilarious. They will trick me. They'll like set up a camera and then turn on music, and they know I'm gonna dance, so then they catch me on video, and it's so embarrassing but hilarious. And so, we have fun together too. It's not just law. And that's another great quote I heard years ago that has stuck with me. Law without relationship equals rebellion, or rules without relationship equals rebellion. R. So that has stuck with me. There's got to be rules, of course. That would be stupid, but there's got to be relationship. If you don't have relationship, then the rules, first of all, are going to feel like hypocritical and like a burden, and no joy is in that. But when you have relationship and you love your parents, and your children have received this, like not verbal, but just a message through life that you're on their side, you love them, you value them, you enjoy them, you like them. When they receive that message, I am for you, I'm not against you, we are on the same team, this is our family, we together, then they're delighted to follow your rules. They're persuaded that your rules are actually good for them. And doesn't that model our relationship with our loving Heavenly Father who loves us so much? We're not annoyed at God because He says, I can't do that. No, He loves us more than we could ever imagine. And so we trust Him that His ways are wise, and we want to honor him and please him, because we want to walk in a manner worthy of what we've been called to, and we want to please our Heavenly Father out of love, not out of fear, not out of rules, not out of I can't wait till I'm 18 so I can do whatever the heck I want attitude, but lifelong devotion and love, because we love him, because he loves us so well. He loves us so graciously. He forgives us so constantly. We want to give our children that same hope. There is unconditional grace here, my child. I love you. I'm on your side. I want what is best for you. I want you to win. And that's why I say yes to this and no to this, and what about this and whatever. And again, there's no formula, but I'm pretty sure we can all agree these are good things that children need. And even if they go through a season of, foolishness, Lord willing, they'll realize that's better and come back to the old road, right? Like the Andrew Peterson song that I cannot listen to. Oh my goodness, I hate it because it makes me sob like a fool. It's called Stick to the Old Roads. Oh, just the title gives me goosebumps. What's wrong with me? So I love that song. I really don't listen to it often because it makes me weep. I am not kidding. But that's what we're trying to do, right? Is pave the roads for our beautiful, beloved children, and hope and pray that they stick to them. And if they do fall off track, that they would come back to them. And Lord be with them. But something else I've heard is to make the Christian life look attractive. Who in the world is going to grow up in a bitter, resentful, rigid, frustrated, joyless, no laughter house, and then want to grow up and be like, I want to be a Christian just like my parents? Nobody. They're going to want to get as far away from that as possible. They don't want that. How is that attractive? How is that what any child would grow up to aspire to? We want to show them the joy of following Jesus, the delight of a life with Jesus, love and genuineness, not hypocrisy. You don't want to be gossiping in front of your kids or talking bad about anybody ever in front of your kids. Ever, 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 ever. Our children have never heard us gossip about people because we don't gossip about people. Not because we're trying to be perfect. We're trying to be God-honoring. And gossiping is not loving. It's just that simple. So we're called to love as Christians, and we want to live that out. So your kids pick up on more than you realize. One last thing. Stop saying things about your kids to other people. Don't, even if they're 1 year old, don't say he's shy to another person in front of your 1 year old. That 1 year old's hearing you tell that person that he's shy. And he's going to be shy because you're telling people he's shy. Let him grow. Give him space to grow. Don't label him. Don't make them label themselves because of you. Oh, he's this way. Oh, she's that way. What? Who are you telling that to and why? First of all, that's disloyal to your child. They will not be able to trust you if they hear you talking about them to other people. Oh, my child does this. My child does that. Stop. Be more loyal to your child. Be their friend. And give them time and space and years to grow and mature in whatever area you see as a potential weakness in them. Not only do you have no idea how you're affecting them by them hearing you tell the people about these things, but you're labeling them and you're causing them to label themselves. So don't do that to a person. Let them grow up free to become who they're going to become and not have a label hanging over their head. It makes me so frustrated when I hear parents talk about their children, especially in front of them, especially. Obviously, there are occasions where we have to talk about our children to a trusted friend, but even then, be loyal, be careful. That is your friend, your child. Would you want someone talking to somebody else about you that way? What you're saying? Seriously, give people time to grow and mature. You go to the Lord, pray, and maybe research stuff online, but don't blast your kid's name and issues and flaws and struggles to everybody and cover it up with being real and authentic and vulnerable. No, you're being disloyal is what you're being. So just be careful. Again, there are times we have to talk, but be careful and don't say it in front of them. You're going to be the one to blame for them becoming shy and being shy forever, or whatever other label you want to give them. It's not right to do that to a person. So, love your wonderful children. Be their friend. Enjoy them, for goodness sake. They're not a burden. They're a blessing. Have fun with them. Think long term. What kind of relationship are you building with this beautiful human that God has entrusted to you? My goodness gracious. Delight in them. Show them the love of God through your love for them. Forgive them. Be gracious to them. Be sweet and tender and kind to them. Me and Hector went on a trip together to Mackinac Island. It was such a great time. But while we were there, we saw many parents being so heartbreakingly harsh to their children. It ripped my heart out. I saw this mom hit her son's cap, like he was wearing a cap, and she hit the bill of his hat and said, "You never effing listen." And we're like, in public. That poor child. You foolish woman. What are you doing? Control yourself. Check your heart. And love this poor little child a little better. Disgusting. And then I saw this other mom being all affectionate and sweet with her son on the airplane, letting him watch the iPad for 5 hours. And then when they got out of the plane and were all walking to the luggage claim, she turned around, pushed him on the floor, and said, "Get out of my S." I guess he was touching her purse or something. So she cursed at him and shoved him on the floor. I'm like, what is happening? People are crazy. People are abusing their kids in public with no shame. If they're shoving their kids, hitting their kids' hats, cursing at their kids in public, what is happening behind closed doors? Very, very sad. And one of these families was Caucasian and one of these families were Hispanic. And I was like, be with that poor child. What kind of a life are they being given? What kind of a hateful attitude they're receiving every day, being made to feel like a worthless nothing. How are they going to grow up with that kind of treatment? It just breaks my heart. And, you know, I know there's worse stuff out there, but that just breaks my heart. Even that tiny nothing breaks my heart because it's so bad. So, love your children.